Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. My name is Genesis Rodriguez. I am a public affairs specialist with the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. Um, Today, we have this awesome tour. We're going to tour the Puente Hills Materials Recovery Facility. And with me today, I have Basil Hewitt, who's a supervisor engineer with the sanitation districts. So first, Basil will talk a little bit about our history in solid waste management. And then we'll get to the real good stuff where we're going to go into the MRF and talk about all the stuff that we recycle there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A feature, or if you want to ask your question live, then please use the raise your hand feature, and then we'll unmute you as you go. So with that, Basil, I leave it to you.
All right, thank you, Genesis. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this tour of our Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility. We always look forward to physically gathering a group of our neighbors and take them on a bus trip to our facility, but because of the pandemic, we've had to go to this virtual world. So we try to duplicate a lot of that effect here. So let's see. So the sanitation districts, most people aren't aware of who we are as an agency. Well, we serve 5.6 million people in LA County. We serve 78 of the 88 cities in the county. And we go as far north as Lancaster and Palmdale, where you see my cursor at, and as far south as Long Beach, Carson, and so on. Our mission is to protect public health and the environment. And in doing so, and we do so by wastewater and solid waste management. And doing so, convert that waste into resources such as recycled water, energy, and recycled material. And you'll see a little bit of each component on this tour. We were formed in 1923. These three gentlemen that created the sanitation district. The guy on the far right is our first chief engineer, Albert Kendall Warren. The guy in the middle was the chairperson of the Board of Supervisors back in the day. And the guy on the far left is the guy who wrote the law, the Sanitation District Act, that created our agency, which is a special agency, special district tasked back in 1923 to handle wastewater for the cities and counties. We did such a great job with wastewater management that Sanitation Districts Act was amended in 1949 to allow us to also help with solid waste management. Here's a couple of images. Back in the center image shows what LA looked like post-World War II, where smog was really bad, and a big contributor were backyard incinerators that you see here on the left. And this is a fancy one, but at the end of the day, in post-World War II, folks would usually take their trash in their backyard and just burn it in a barrel or so on. So the County Board of Supervisors banned backyard incinerator as a step to improve air quality and amended the Sanitation Districts Act for us to allow us to help with managing solid waste. So we're a backstop, making sure people have a low-cost option to dispose of waste. We don't pick it up, but we manage it, either recycling it or so on. We treat, on our wastewater side, we treat about 400 million gallons of sewage a day with our 11 wastewater treatment plant. That's enough to fill up the Rose Bowl 4 or 5 times a day. And on the solid waste side, we manage about a fourth of the county's trash. And this map shows you the various facilities we have. We have a couple of landfills, we have transfer stations, we have material recovery facilities. And today we're going to focus at our Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility, which is located at the 605 and 60 freeway. So we got to give you that virtual effect. So if you got on the bus, you leave our main office, you drive out, this is the view you see as we go to the Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility. This mountain right here is the closed Puente Hills landfill. There's about 130 million tons of trash buried there. That landfill closed in 2013. And the Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility sits on the footprint of the land. It's about 1,360 acres, and we only use about 600 acres of that land for landfilling. So we give you the view, we drive closer. We usually, when we do the tour, we go to the very top so you can see a view of the valley. So you drive through the landfill, you can see how lush the closed landfill is. Here's some actual footage as you go up to the the very top of the landfill. We vegetate it, we irrigate it. It's just a beautiful open space. And part of the deal with this closed landfill is that there are hiking trails up there. So here, more views. As you go up, you also notice pipelines. The landfill is closed, but the trash that's been buried there is still breaking down anaerobically. Microorganisms that live in an oxygen-free environment are taking that organic material and producing landfill gas, which is mainly methane and CO2. And part of our mission to protect public health and environment is we capture that landfill gas, and these pipelines and wells are buried through the closed landfill that's always settling. And here we'll continue to follow, go to the top, see more landfill. All that landfill gas goes to a power plant we have at the top of the landfill called the Puente Hills Energy Recovery Facility, PERG. And all this landfill gas is combusted there to produce electricity. We produce about 30 megawatts of electricity. And as you drive to the very top, you will see, you drive past PERG. And when we get to the very top, here's what you see. Here's the closed Puente Hills landfill. You can see the mountains, the San Gabriel Valley mountains in the background. It's really a beautiful vista. And this is the actual shot our visitors would get when go to the very top. Wish we had sound to go with it. And at the very top, you also have people go hiking, horseback riding. Here's like a hitching post. There's a, in the back of this picture, there's a watering hole for horses. So one part of the story of the closed landfill is that we helped establish the Puente Hills Native Habitat Authority. And we donated 200 acres to that, and we've created a 4,000 acre wildlife corridor between the landfill, which is located at 605 and 60, going east for native habitat. Here's the shot we came to see. From the very top, you can see the Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility. This is the cornerstone of what we do now in terms of solid waste management, solid waste recycling. It was built in 2005. It sits on about 25 acres. And inside the building is completely enclosed. It's got about 217,000 square feet of floor space to handle the trash that comes in. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Genesis so she'll give you a more detailed, up-close look at the Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility.
All right. Awesome. Here we go. Perfect. So before we get into the really good stuff, I wanted to put in a plug for our household hazardous and electronic waste events that we hold throughout LA County every Saturday. We accept what you see here: paint, fluorescent light tubes, car batteries, sharps, pharmaceuticals, anything too toxic to go in the trash, we will happily take for free. So again, this is free to all LA County residents, and we have our website right here at lacsd.org/HHW. Today, we're at El Monte, at the El Monte Airport, and then we're also in the city of Linwood by Alameda Street. So right after this presentation, you can head on over there and we will be out there till 3 o'clock. Okay, now to the really good stuff. Let's go down the hill and go to the MRF. So when you first show up at the MRF, you know, whether it's your waste hauler or whether it's you have a construction project going on, or you're moving out of your house and you have trash to bring, you'll drive up here to the scale house. You see here's the little scale house. They'll weigh your vehicle upon entering, and then they'll weigh it once you leave, and they'll charge you by the ton. And so here you come, you take a ride inside, and you have Basil here driving. So this is what you see if you were a truck bringing in your waste. And honestly, it's like the Disneyland of our solid waste management. It's awesome. To the left, you have the recycled, the build-up commodities here. And then over there to the front, you have the rest of the MRF. I think of it like Disneyland. There is so much going on and there's so much to see, and you don't even know where to look at first. The first thing I will point out though is up here at the top, you have this mezzanine that has windows where you can look out and you get this like really cool kind of bird's eye view. So if we were actually taking this tour in person, we would be walking up to the mezzanine and you would get a view like this. This would be your view from the top. So again, like I said, it's Disneyland. You've got Mickey Mouse here, you've got the churro stand here. So there's a lot of different waste that's being processed in these different areas where you see the numbers, and we'll kind of briefly go over that. You will notice the misters at the top of the ceilings, and that's to capture any dust. And then you have the skylight windows up here at the top that really helps us save energy because it helps us rely on the daylight. So now we're back here down at the bottom. Refuse is then unloaded. So your trash truck, they pick up the blue bin from your house. Here we have CalMet for all you garbage truck lovers. You ever wonder what happens once they leave your homes or they leave your block? They come to a materials recovery facility, and here they are unloading all our blue bin waste. Look at that. Awesome. Very lovely. And so in this other section, here they are again, like I said, mom and pop shops. So if you're, working in construction or you're moving out of your home, you can definitely come and bring your waste, and there's a spot for you to do it here. Oh, I skipped one. Yard waste. We also accept yard waste. It's composted off-site. And then here is the mountain of recyclables before they're baled. Now that we're talking about recyclables, we definitely used to send a lot of our recyclables. They are all shipped overseas. I think it was like about 70% of California's waste that went overseas, and it made sense, right? Many people like to think of it as this perfect marriage. China would send over their ships with a lot of consumer goods, and instead of sending those ships back empty, we would fill them up with a lot of our recycled material. So it worked out great. It's a great marriage until we started to have problems in the marriage. So China started toughening their standards and setting more stricter levels, purity standards for the recyclables that were being sent over there. And so this really kind of shook up the market all over the world. In California alone, when China instituted their China ban, you can see here the difference. In 2016, we were exporting about 17.6 million tons. And then in 2019, post-China ban, we were only exporting about 5.7 million tons. And you'll see that the other neighboring countries started to take up the majority of that, of what China was rejecting. So what you have now is you have your blue bin materials, right? It would go into a materials recovery facility. So now instead of being shipped out to the recycling market, a lot of that recycled material was being sent out in these transfer trucks, and they were end up in a landfill. So here you have this really cool video of one of those transfer trucks driving out with a lot of that trash that didn't make it. A lot of the trash that wasn't recyclable. You have that truck that's leaving, it's off to take it to a landfill. And here is, there's a little rolling cover over it so that when it's driving, you have no trash falling out of it. So our response to the China ban, we installed this automated sorting line, super cool, state of the art. And this is the beginning process of it. So here you have, we mentioned all that recycled material that we saw that the garbage truck was dumping off. So now we get all of it and we put it on these conveyor belts. And so all that trash goes up here to the conveyor belts, and then it goes into this room where you see that the people are actually sorting it. So this is the pre-sort process. And what they're doing is just removing any extra large items or any ropes, because that could potentially damage the machinery. And here is just, the 15-second commercial. It's like our Super Bowl commercial, our preview of everything that you see all the components of the automated sorting line. And there's a lot going on. So we're going to go over the main ones. So here's our simplified flow chart for the sorting process. So first you have the bag breaker, right? And that's pretty standard. You go to, this is how the machine works. You know, we put a lot of our trash in these bags. So these machines rip the bags. So all the potentially recyclable material goes into one conveyor belt, and then the plastic bags are sorted out. Next, you have the material screens, where if you see this video, what happens is a lot of the lighter items, such as the plastic containers or like cardboards and papers, they surf through the top and go through their own conveyor belt. And then all the heavier items like glass, it sinks down and it's crushed, it's refined, and it goes into another conveyor belt to later be sorted out. Another process is the air separator that also helps. It's a process that it flows through air and it helps separate any lighter materials such as paper, where the heavy materials such as like the containers that are filled with liquids, those are sorted out to a different one. So also the polishing screen, this is another method that we use to separate everything. And from here, the polishing screen, we create these two mainstreams. So we have the 2D, which is really like the papers and the cardboards, and then the 3D, like all the containers, whether a lot of that contains metal as well, and then the different kinds of plastics. So first, let's talk about the metal separator. So here, we're able to recuperate any iron because we have this, it's like a ginormous magnet. So here you have the video of like the ginormous magnet that recuperates the iron, and then from there it goes to an eddy sorter that pretty much recuperates all of the aluminum that's in there. So we have the iron sorted out, we have the aluminum. So now what's left are all like the plastic containers. Now on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit about the optical plastical sorters that we use on both ends, on both the 3D ends and the 2D ends. So here's the optical sorter. And what the optical sorter does, it has this infrared light to be able to distinguish between the trash. So on the 3D side, when you're dealing with all these plastics, you have different kinds of plastics, right? They're not all created equal. So you have like the milk jugs, you have the laundry detergent, you have water bottles. Those are all different kinds of plastic. So we use these optical sorters with the infrared light to be able to distinguish between like the types of plastic, like how thick they are and the size. And then it has these air jets that kind of pump that different type of plastic into a separate conveyor belt. It helps sorts them out. So here is a video of the optical sorter with the cardboard. You see that? It's right there. Hold on, this is so beautiful. I want to play it again. So this is the paper and cardboard conveyor belt, and you see this little dark cardboard, bam, it shoots right up. So air jet sends it out, and that's how we're able to separate those. Now, we do have a quality control. We have manual sorters that look through everything that's been sorted out and just to make sure everything's good. We also have this beautiful robotic sorter. It's Max, artificial intelligent robotic sorter. As you can see, it's separating out everything that's not plastic bottles. So you see a lot of plastic cups, any paper that might have gotten in there. It's really efficient. I think in comparison to a person can do like 10 to 15 picks per minute. This robotic sorter is doing like 45 picks per minute. And again, what's really cool is that it has AI that gets even better with time because it learns. It takes its history into account. So I talked about like the plastics that all get sorted out on their own. So here, they're all in their little group, and then they go into this conveyor belt where they're going to go to this baling machine. And now you have these beautiful, pure bales. Here you have the papers. Right in front of us, you have the cardboard. And then you have these beautiful aluminum can bales. And as you can see, the machines kind of rope them off with like this rubber rope to keep them in place. And I think the key takeaway about this is that now, thanks to this automated sorting line, we're able to produce much purer bales. And because they're a lot purer, we're able to get a lot more, well, more money for them than we did in the past. And so now we're going to move on to the next part of our MRF, which is the really exciting food waste recycling process that
Before we
Basil's
go
going to talk
on,
to you about.
Genesis, do you want to check to see if there are any questions or
Uh,
people want to raise their hands and ask any questions?
yeah. Do you want to share your screen? And
You can stop sharing it and I take questions right now.
okay, perfect. So let's see, hold on first. There you go. And you can, all right. So first question, is there any free box type thing where we can save things that people threw out? No, there is not. Unfortunately not. So the next question is, why does my hood in Calabasas have blue bins for garbage and brown bins for recycling?
Those collection issues are really, they go by city. So each city has, working with their hauler, they develop a collection system that's optimal for them. So I can't really speak on each specific community.
Yeah, each waste hauler is different. My apartment complex does not have a blue bin program. Does the large bin we use for everything go through a sorting process?
So the material recovery facility, it can handle the blue bin, the black bin, as well as the green bin. So we can, if there's a high percentage of recycled material in like a black bin material, we will try to get that stuff out of there too, at a lower rate, but we'll still try to get it out.
Okay. Please address contaminated recycle stuff and how thoroughly we need to clean it before putting in the bin.
Wow, that's again, that's where each city has their own rules. I know for us, in the blue bin, we don't want sneakers and rope, stuff that we think could be recycled. They jam up our equipment, but it's really the different jurisdiction. Usually what we like to see in the blue bin are plastic, cardboard, paper, and so on.
So one of the questions in our chat is, we're blowing up.
Oh, okay.
So excuse me, hold on. So I saw a question here. How much trash do you get a day? We were hoping for this question.
So we get
So
about the facility can handle up to 4,400 tons per day, and it's getting over 1,000, probably 1,200 tons per day.
should plastic bags be recycled in the blue bin or trash?
Um, I'm not sure. I think that's trash. I think that's, yeah. But again, familiarize yourself with your particular hauler.
Um,
If we, do you want to go on to the food waste and save some of the?
yeah,
All right.
we can do that. We'll move on to the food
We're
waste.
getting an avalanche of questions, and then we'll come back. So the next program, let me hide my, there you go. The next program we have, and so the whole facility is set up to help our member cities meet California recycling requirements. So California is trying to get to a goal of 75% recycle. So this MRF is here to help the cities we serve meet these goals. Well, California has a set of laws to divert organics from landfill, organic waste, food waste, yard waste from landfill, because when that stuff is buried in landfill, again, that anaerobic digestion could produce CO2, which is a greenhouse gas, and methane, which is an even more potent greenhouse gas. And so every day in California, in Los Angeles County, we generate 4,000 tons of food waste. And there's a law that's going to come into effect, which will require all cities, all jurisdictions, Los Angeles County, divert organics from landfill, in particular food waste, beginning January of 2022. So we have this program in place to help member cities. this food waste program, our food waste program has three main steps. The first step starts at the Puente Hills MRF, where we get a truck will come in with what we call source separated food waste from either a grocery store or restaurant. And at the MRF, we turn it into a slurry in terms of smoothie. And then from there, we take it to our largest treatment plant in Carson called the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant. And we put it in anaerobic digesters, which are huge concrete tanks. They're set up like our stomach, and they digest that material and produce biogas that we can use for energy, for electricity, heat, steam, vehicle fuel, and gas. And then whatever is left over from those digesters, that the solid material, we turn it into fertilizer or compost. So here's a shot of source separated food waste from the local grocery store. When it comes into the material recovery facility, that shot that Genesis showed you from the mezzanine to the right is where we have our food waste processing equipment. We have this system's called a DOTA system. There's a hopper that the food waste goes into. Then from there, it's fed into two bioseparators, these devices that you see here. And we take about 30 tons of food waste per day at the Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility. Here's a video from the first load that we put into the DOTA system. We've been recycling food waste for over 6 years, but DOTA system we started using a couple of years ago. So this food waste gets put in there. This is source separated food waste. So this is the clean stuff. And you can see that there's still a bit of paper and plastic in there. And typically we can handle, for every 100 pounds of food waste, if 90 pounds is food and 10% is contaminant, we can handle it no problem in the system. So it gets put in the hopper, and this was the first flip of the switch for the DOTA system. It feeds it into these bioseparators that you see here. And what's happening in this chamber, it's a circular chamber, and we're squeezing the food waste through those openings, little like grit openings. It's almost like a garlic press. And then it rejects the organic material is left in the chamber while the food waste, inorganic is left in the chamber while the food waste goes through the opening. Then we have a second motorized type garlic press where that food waste goes to smaller openings and the rejects are inorganic material. And then what comes out is this food waste slurry. Looks like a smoothie, and this is the energy, the good stuff that we want that you see here. That food waste slurry is stored. So here's the hopper, the two bioseparator is stored in these 3 tanks. And if we need water, we have an extra tank here to supply water to get just the right consistency. And then we have a driver that comes periodically, fills up a tanker truck with this slurry, and he takes it or she takes it to our treatment plant in Carson. And it's offloaded into one of these 4 slurry receiving stations. And from there, that food waste slurry is combined with the wastewater solids removed from the wastewater treatment. And they're combined about 10% by volume is food waste in these digesters. And these anaerobic digesters, these microorganisms that live in that oxygen-free environment, they produce the biogas over 10 to 15 days, or 15 to 16 days, kills any pathogens that may be in there. And also they produce biogas, which is again, mainly methane and CO2, but it's completely sealed, so none of it can escape to the atmosphere. And a little tidbit, just by adding the food waste to these digesters, we double the biogas production in these digesters. And that biogas, we take it, most of it goes to our power plant at our treatment plant called the Total Energy Facility. Here's an aerial shot of it. And it produces about 20 megawatts of power. And it essentially makes that joint water pollution control plant, our largest wastewater plant, essentially energy self-sufficient. But as we're getting more and more food waste coming to our Puente Hills MRF, we're producing more biogas. And what we've done, here's an aerial, a drone shot, a cutout of the road. This is at the joint plant Carson, and up Figueroa, under the road, we've built a pipeline to convey the biogas to an existing compressed natural gas fueling station we have at the corner of Sepulveda and Figueroa and Carson. And this drone shot is perfect because you can see the alignment of the new gas pipeline. And here you have this gas is fed into this system right here, a biogas conditioning system that takes the gas from 60% methane to over 90% methane, making it vehicle fuel. We store it in this tank that you see here, and then it's fed into this gas station that we own, and we've partnered with a company called Clean Energy to run for a number of years. So here's a ground shot of the biogas conditioning system. Here, the ground shot of the tanker that stores the natural gas. And then here's the fueling station. What is so neat about this, we're taking this food waste that could create a problem in the environment, and now we're generating vehicle fuel. We're slowly, this gas station CNG station used to be fed with natural gas from the natural gas pipeline. Now, since November, we've been slowly weaning this gas station off the natural gas using the biogas from food waste. And by some point in this year, this fuel station should be completely fueled by biogas from food waste. We're getting about 300 tons per day of food waste slurry to the joint plant. In addition to the slurry from the MRF, the Puente Hills MRF, we have 8 other haulers that are bringing food waste to the joint plant in Carson. That food waste currently is producing the equivalent of 2,000 gallons of gasoline. And when we max out the system, we should be able to get over 5,700 gallons of gasoline. And as we get more food waste coming to the MRF and through a hauler, we're still going to be producing electricity that'll go to our total energy facility. We also have a number of electric vehicle charging ports at our plant in Carson that's open to the public as well as staff. So some of that electricity would go to those EV charging station. We would still go to the compressed natural gas fueling station. And then down the road, maybe you could inject this into the natural gas pipeline and it winds up in your home. So to kind of wrap it all up, in addition to recycling water and recycling commodities and so on, we're one of the biggest producers of green energy. Currently, we're producing about 78 megawatts of electricity. We have about 20 coming from the joint plant in Carson. The power plant that we saw in the beginning of the drive up to the landfill is producing about 28 megawatts of power. And then we have refuse energy facilities producing an additional 30. And the district only needs about 23 megawatts for its own operation. And the rest we sell into the power grid. And that revenue helps bring our costs down for our ratepayers. We always like to end on this. We hope to soon get back to giving physical tours. It would typically be a Saturday physical tour where we get out and look at the mezzanine. But over the last year or so, we moved to a virtual world, and these virtual tours are online, and they're also available for schools and groups that want to schedule them at their own convenience. But we look forward to doing these tours in person again. Genesis, we can take questions now. I think we had an onslaught of questions.
Yes, we do. Oh, also, before I forget, I would like, while we answer questions, if you could please fill out this 1-question survey before you go. So I have it out. If you could please answer that, we appreciate your feedback. If you have any additional feedback or anything else that you would like to see for the next tour, please send us an email at info@lacsd.org. We love to hear back from you guys. All right, so our first question, we have Sue who has her hand up. Sue, would you like to ask your question? And she brought it down. Okay. So we're gonna go to how much food waste do you receive a day?
Food waste we receive a day at the Puente Hills MRF, we get about 30 tons of food waste a day. We can handle up to about 165 tons per day of food waste. And to put that in perspective, the county generates at least 4,000 tons per day. So because we have wastewater facilities and solid waste facility, it took just a little bit of extra work for us to create this food waste to energy or food waste recycling system. So we encourage our member cities to take advantage of this limited capacity, because the next increment of food waste diversion is going to cost more if someone had to build their own digester, their own material recovery facility. So we take 30 right now. We can take up to 165, but that's a drop in the bucket compared to the 4,000 that we know at least is out there.
And the drop in food waste for the digester, is that from COVID-related closures of restaurants?
Yes, yeah, that was a COVID drop, and we're starting to see the tonnage going up.
All right, so we have Jose Sanchez who has his hand up. Could you please ask your question?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for this great presentation. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for putting this together. Yeah, my question, I have two questions. The first one is related to the energy produced by the wastewater and the landfill. Could you talk about the financials of like the energy revenue generated is enough to sustain the facilities, and or you need some support from the city to operate?
The energy generated helps subsidize our costs on the wastewater side. Like I said, after everything is paid for, it brings our operating costs down by $9 million at least per year, just by having that total energy facility at the joint plant. In terms of the solid waste energy generation at PERG, I know that since the facility came online, it has generated probably it's over $1 billion in revenue, and again, which keeps our costs down at the gate, the tipping fee for our customers and the people we serve. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay,
and then your second part was, how can cities, what role can they play? I didn't.
Following on that, is there any article or the information about the revenue is publicly available that, if you want to implement this in another city, you can follow the example of LA?
If you reach out to Genesis or I, we can get you in touch with some of the subject matter experts, and they can share their knowledge with you.
Okay, great.
So if you just we'll put up a slide with our contact information. We'll also put it in the chat. But yeah, we have subject matter experts that are willing to share their knowledge.
Okay, and I think that goes to another question that we had, if there are mentorship opportunities available at the MRF.
Mentorship opportunities for high school students, college students.
It's not specified, but I think for students, we do have the student engineering program.
Yeah, we also have an internship program for students. If you're in college, you can apply to become an intern, either in our lab or an engineering intern. But we have a variety of internship programs because we're always looking for new talent to come in.
Yeah, and then some are at the MRF as well.
Yeah, and some are at the MRF, yes.
All right, our next question is from Barbara Malkin, who has her hand up. Barbara, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, this is actually her husband talking.
Oh, no.
When you have an item that had food in it and it's recyclable, how clean does it have to be before we can put it into the recycle bin? Does it have to be washed completely or rinsed out?
I don't think it needs to be. I don't know if we have anyone from our solid waste group that could answer that question. I don't think it needs to be rinsed out, but I'm not. I wish, I don't know if Navnet or Bob or Chuck or anybody's on the line.
No.
In terms of how clean that is, they can raise their hand and. Yeah.
No, we don't.
Okay.
So the next question.
Something I would add, but it doesn't. You can see even the blue bin stuff wasn't clean. That video of the truck coming in, that's your blue bin recycled stuff, and it's not that clean. I mean, we'd like it to be clean, but we will work around it. Yeah.
So our next question is from Jacob. Jacob, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi, thanks. This has been a great presentation. In terms of residential yard waste, I've seen different signage on different yard waste bins, like you can and cannot put in like produce, like apples or kitchen scraps, that sort of thing. Could you speak to that a little bit in terms of like general rules for yard waste and the ability to put in kitchen scraps?
Again, I think that's based on the city. So each city usually works with a particular hauler, and so depending on what the endpoint for that hauler system is, that's how those rules evolve, and that's why you have different rules in different cities. For us, when we want the food waste, we want the food waste if you're going to bring it to us, we like the food waste separated from the yard waste. So that's what we can speak to, what we would like to see come to our facility. Food waste separated from yard waste, because the yard waste creates more of a headache, a problem in that DOTA system. But it's really a function of your city and the hauler they're working with. If they have a combined system, maybe they can handle it. But.
All right, so our next question's from Jay Whitaker. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi, I just wanted to know if anyone is actually purchasing the plastic, or is it being sent to Indonesia and Malaysia and places like that?
So the stuff that Genesis showed you, though, when we recover that, we're selling it. Usually, there are not a lot of folks in the U.S. that purchase the baled material. Most of it is sold to Pacific Rim countries. And as I think Genesis mentioned, because our bales, because of this new sorting system, that's not only 3 or 4 times faster than the old system, but the bales are like 95% pure, we're getting an increase in terms of commodity. So our folks at the MRF, they work with a broker that will sell them to folks that will recycle them. So we're selling, most of it is still going overseas, and not just us. I think North America, Europe, most of the stuff is going to like Pacific Rim countries. So.
Okay, so our next question is from Kelvin. Kelvin, would you like to unmute yourself?
Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
For glass bottles, should we take the lids off?
Pardon? What was it?
For plastic bottles, should we take the lids off?
Yeah.
And glass.
And glass.
I think I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think especially for glass, what happens is it gets broken
shredded.
up. Pardon?
It gets shredded. It gets broken up into fine pieces.
Yeah, if you want to talk more about it, Genesis, go ahead and explain what happens to the glass.
Yeah, no, it gets shredded and broken up into little fine pieces. So what it does is all that glass, it goes into another sorting processing system that further purifies the glass. So don't worry, you can definitely keep the caps on those.
Yeah, so like when she showed the cardboard's kind of sailing up, what's falling through are heavy things like glass. So the bag breaker not only breaks the bag, it breaks the glass. And so when we recycle the glass, what you have are like these little pieces of shards of glass that in a container, and then it goes to a recycler that knows what to do with it. So.
And that is a great question. Thank you for your question.
Yes.
That's awesome. I'm glad that's the best question. So the next, we have a question from Jacob, and then we're gonna get more into the questions from the Q&A. Question Jacob, would you like to mute yourself?
Yeah, thanks again. So follow-up question on what the gentleman asked about the plastic going to Pacific Rim countries. This might be beyond the scope of this call, but in terms of like the end buyers of that plastic, I think we've all probably seen articles about kind of plastic gone wrong in kind of in Asia and other parts of the world, where it can be like, you know, burned with like no filters and like human health problems. And is there anything that you guys can do in terms of controlling like who ends up receiving the plastic and the end use of it?
I think that's, I mean, what we're producing are these really, we're making sure they go to a factory that will utilize them. And these bales, I mean, people are not purchasing it just to throw it away. So when you have these ultra pure bales, I don't think you have as much, I don't know, residuals or stuff that maybe people don't have a use for, if that makes sense. I think the sorting system helps with that problem. I mean, essentially what China, and I think you're alluding to it, is that some of the baled stuff coming from around the world, you know, maybe it was like 60% pure. So what do you do with the other 40%? So if we're sending something that's 95 or higher percent pure, then there shouldn't be that much, as much residual to left behind. And I guess it just goes back to what we can do as a nation, just try to recycle and not waste, and just change kind of like our view of stuff. But I think the sorting system helps with that, in terms of if we're selling you a baled stuff and it's 95% pure, that means less residual to wind up in the environment or have to landfill or so on. So.
Okay, so we're gonna go to our next, we have some hands raised and we have some more Q&As. So let's see, the next question that I had here was, wait, oh, is there a national, oh, people are asking about having a recording of this tour. So we will post it up on our YouTube. We'll have it up like by Monday morning at the latest. We'll have a recording of this presentation. So it's, I'll put it in the chat too. It's youtube.com/Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. And you can see the name kind of spelled out on Basil's background. So we'll have that up. And then if you want to be notified of the next tour that we have, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We put notifications on all those social media platforms, and also on our website as well.
We also have old tours are also on YouTube now.
Yeah, you can also view old tours as well. All right, so the next question are the plastic bags an issue? Should we stop putting the plastic bags in the trash can, or can you guys separate those fine? Because I guess in Long Beach, we've been told not to use big trash bags for collecting trash.
Yeah, I think they're an issue, but again, I'm not an expert in terms of what we can do with it. I think we're looking for certain types of plastic, and I don't think the plastic bag is one of the things we're recycling at this point, or recovering at this point.
Okay, and next question, why do we send recyclables overseas? Why can't we recycle them in the US?
I think it comes down to economics. I mean, we're looking for folks that would take that material here, but there are very few places here. And I think, as Genesis mentioned, for every 100 ship that comes with goods from overseas, from the manufacturing places in Asia, probably 60 to 40 go back empty. So since it's going back empty, it's developed this relationship where we utilize that space and we sell it back to the same factories and manufacturers. And so instead of having that stuff in a landfill, at least it's being recycled. But if there are people, or if there are folks that use the recycled material to generate new commodities, we would more than gladly sell it here.
From your point of view, what is the biggest thing that needs to change to improve this process?
In terms of recycling process?
Yeah.
I think we just have to recognize that we have one planet, and we all have to do our part to just recycle and reuse. I mean, the food waste thing that's coming down the road, I think we all have to recognize that we have to do our part to separate organics or food waste from the waste stream, and do our part, and just You know, I think that's it. Just be open to new ways of, like when you go to different, like European countries, Asian countries, in their kitchen, they have multiple recycled bins or containers, and we just have to get used to that. I think that's an important thing.
All right, great. Our next question is from Erica. Erica, would you like to unmute yourself to ask your question?
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having this virtual tour. It's very helpful. Yeah, personally, I live in Orange County, so I actually visit the Republic Service MRF a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very nice that I can do the virtual tour for the ones in LA County. So I have a couple questions for the MRF. What types of plastic is going to be can be sold to the processor, number 1 to 7? Which one is being bought?
I think we're selling, my understanding, maybe 1 to 7, but like the water bottles we're selling, the juice containers we're selling.
Milk jugs,
Yeah, milk jugs.
which is called HDP natural, and the beverage containers, PET. Those actually go to more local markets.
Yeah.
Okay.
And MRP as well.
MRP?
Yeah.
What's MRP? Sorry.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I have a list here.
Mixed rigid plastic, I think. I don't remember. I think it's like mixed rigid plastic. Yeah. So.
And how about polystyrene?
It may be. I think it's one of the plastics we also said. Yeah. But whatever the market, if there's a market for it, the thing about that MRF and the people who operate it, they can reorient what they're doing to remove that commodity. So if it has a value, our folks will try to recover it and put it back on the market. And so that's ever changing. I know there's about 7 different types of plastic that they recover now, and there's a market for it. So if there's a market for it, we will figure out how to pull it out of the waste stream. So I just don't know all 7 off the top of my head.
Okay, so is polypropylene also being sold? PP, number 5.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, thank you. Because you mentioned that you need to have, so right now you can have the bale to be 95% pure. And because when I visited Republic Service, I think back then it was around 2018, and that actually I think they told us at that time it cannot be more than 0.5% contamination. So is that because right now the market is better, so the contamination rate can be tolerated to be a higher percent?
Yeah, we want these ultra pure bales, and our bales are some of the and it's because what the market wants is what these receiving countries want, and that's what we're producing with this new automated sorting line. How pure were their bales?
They didn't say how purity about their bale, but they just mentioned that a lot of their bales cannot be sold to the processor because the contamination rate is too high. It's
too low. Yeah.
Contamination rate has to be lower than 0.5%, which means the bale has to be 99.5% pure to be sold.
Yeah. So that's the great story about this new line. It came in, we brought it online in January of last year, and those are some of the purest bales that are being produced anywhere. So, and if you want, we can get your information. We can talk to the folks that run the site, but I know that we're getting higher price for the commodity, and part of the story is that these bales are much purer. All right, thank you.
So the next question is the sorter able to separate different types of plastic from each other? So yes, we have the optical sorting machine that uses the infrared light and is able to distinguish between the different kinds of plastic and put them in different conveyor belts to be baled separately.
Yeah.
So the next question is, does the recycling facility generate enough revenue to self-sustain, or does it need to receive city financial support?
It doesn't get city financial support. The financing of our solid waste side is the tipping fees at the gate, the energy sales that we get from either the PERG or so from the contracts. This program, I mean, the cities we serve is really what this program is for. And California wants at least 75% of stuff recycled. So these programs are there to help our cities meet these goals set up in these statewide recycling laws. And, you know, part of the thing is that we're trying, I don't have the economics right now, but we're trying to make them self-sustaining. And just some of the changes in the recycling market has been a challenge, but we've stepped up with the new sorting line. But first and foremost, we're trying to meet California's requirement to recycle to help our member city. And then we're trying to make sure it's done cost effectively. So the whole recycling market is really in a state of flux, and we're trying to do our part to help.
So next question, can you talk about what types of plastic China banned?
It really was a function of that, the specific is that the bales that were coming in were not pure enough. Someone alluded to some of the issues with bales that weren't pure enough, and they were just, the residuals were polluting the countryside and so on. So it's about, they would meet the ship at the port. They would have someone physically inspect the bales, and if they weren't pure enough, they were sent back. And that's where, you know, our new sorting line comes in to make sure they meet that inspection. So whatever market they're going to. So.
Are there any hazardous waste samples taken before? What?
Oh, I couldn't hear you at first, sorry.
Oh, are there any hazardous waste samples taken before a waste is placed in the landfill?
Okay, so when every day we randomly, at least when trucks come in, we have sensors for radiation, but we also randomly pick a truck or two a day to sample, to look at the load in detail. And then we have visual inspection at the landfill, at the landfills that we have open, or even at the MRF. We'll have people that meet the trucks that come into the tipping floor, but also visually inspect what's coming out of the back of the truck. And if they see something unusual, they'll shut down the operation, address it, and so on.
All right, next question. How pure is the separation process? Is 90% of a plastic bin actually plastic, or more or less?
Off a bale, we're looking at I think over 95% or pure. Those are the numbers I've gotten. I don't know if I can't, yeah, it's over 95% pure, the bale stuff we're getting.
Yeah, 95%. So how do we change to have less packaging?
That's beyond, I mean, we're tasked to handle the trash that comes in. And again, I think it's just societal shift and what we want, you know. I think it you know, it comes down to laws and what we expect in terms of packaging and so on.
Are there locations that still accept plastic bags?
I'm not sure what the answer is on that.
Okay, who is the largest buyer of all the recycled material?
I know it goes to, most of it goes to Pacific Rim's market, but I can't tell you who the largest buyer is.
All right, so With China rejecting impure waste, are there any efforts to take recycled materials such as plastic, break it down to its base components, and sell back to plastic manufacturers so it can be reused?
I think that's part of what goes on. I mean, we recover it, and then the people we sell it to find different ways of trying to recycle it. So I'm pretty sure there are efforts to figure out how to recycle stuff even more.
Is styrofoam accepted as a recyclable?
I'm not.
I think that goes at the regular waste stream.
Yeah, I think that's regular waste stream.
Now let's see. We're ready to? I think we'll tackle some food waste questions now.
Okay.
So how often does the water tank in the food waste recycling process have to be filled up?
Not often. Most of the food waste that we get has enough liquid content that we don't have to add water that often. So it's not have to be refilled. And then a lot of that water, we can get it from we use recycled water if we need to. But my understanding, most of the time, there's sufficient moisture in the tomatoes or whatever that comes in that we don't have to add water.
Okay, and is this food waste only from grocery stores and restaurants, or is some of it from homes?
Most of it is from grocery stores and restaurants. I mean, but again, if individual cities set up programs where the food waste is collected, we're more than happy we can process it and make sure it doesn't wind up in the landfill. And you will see more of that if you live in California anywhere. You will see in the beginning of next year, all your cities will have ordinances, changes in how organic waste is handled, because California has a huge push to keep that organic waste out of landfill because it generates so much methane and it's a very, very disruptive greenhouse gas.
Okay, cool. So the next food waste question is, or actually, how has the MRF changed with safety and precautions in mind during the ongoing COVID pandemic?
Okay, so when the COVID pandemic hit us early on last year, we shut down certain operations initially till we figured out to ensure our staff was safe. They already had PPE, but we wanted to see what else. We didn't know about like touching the surfaces of stuff. But once we got more information, we opened back up. We had partitions, put in some of those sorting lines. Everyone wears masks. So we've taken a number of precautions, because of COVID. But once we knew that, once we got more information, we opened back up. We made some modifications such as partitions and masks to make sure everyone that works there is safe.
So quick question with the automated sorting line. When was it put into use? It was started operations on January 6, 2020.
Okay.
So does Pasadena use your facility?
I think so. I think Pasadena, is one of the cities that use our facility. But again, it's a function of where does their hauler go? And I think so. My understanding last time I checked.
Yeah. What happens if someone were to put batteries in the trash?
It's not a good thing, but that's Genesis mentioned the household hazardous waste program. We have those collection events. We usually have them on a Saturday someplace in the county. So if you live someplace in the county over a 12-month period, there should be an event close to you, and it literally takes you 5 to 10 minutes to drive through, and you just don't even have to get out of your car, and we'll take that free of charge and properly manage that. We ideally don't want batteries in the municipal waste stream. It's not good for you, it's not good for us, it's not good for the environment, so.
Really quick, can you put the contact information slide up?
Oh, would you like, okay, let me
Yeah,
do.
please. Just, I will leave it on for like a minute or two. So while you do that, is there a way to predict how much methane is currently produced by the landfill and how many more years it will continue to produce methane? You're good there.
Okay, I was gonna hide that.
Okay.
So, we usually do, I used to work in a solid waste group and we would do what we call landfill gas projections. So we have to characterize the waste stream that's being buried in the landfill. And then we have models, like computer models, that would predict like a range of methane going forward. So yeah, we do, even when we were building that energy facility, we had to predict or project how much gas we were going to produce so we could size the facility appropriately. So yeah, there are landfill gas projection models that we have used in the past to help predict how much methane we're going to get. And of course, since the landfill is closed, our methane production has been going down because there's no new organic refuse being buried in the trash anymore. So.
Okay, so thank you. Next question. Wow, I love you guys. A lot of questions. Awesome. So are the CRV items separated for redemption?
We have a CRV buyback center at the MRF as well. We didn't talk about that, but all the California redemption stuff, we have a buyback center and you can go to our website and see the hours and drop it off and get paid for it. So.
Do you have a list of cities that use the MRF?
I don't have them off the top of my head, the cities that utilize the MRF, but if they reach out to us, we can get you that information.
Okay, so next question. Can you treat plant-based compostable materials in the food waste facility?
Plant-based compostable material?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know we can take food waste. We don't take yard waste. But if it's like a soy burger, of course, we could take that, but I'm not sure what plant-based compostable material is.
Like sometimes they'll make straws out of them and they'll say that they're
Oh,
plant-based
that kind of stuff.
and they'll degrade. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Those I don't think that's part of the contaminants that when it goes through the bioseparator we're taking out. That stuff doesn't decompose quick enough for us because when it's in the digester at the joint plant, it's only there about 15 to 16 days. So I don't think that's long enough time for that type of material to break down.
Okay. The next question that I have is what happens to all of what happens when your waste hauler takes in furniture, mattresses, etc.? That's all sent to a landfill, right? It's
Yeah,
not
I'm not
processed at the
sure.
MRF.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if they get furniture and so they may take it to a landfill. I'm not sure.
Should we recycle motor oil? This is another HHW plug. Motor oil you should take to one of our household hazardous and electronic waste events. You can go to lacsd.org/HHW, and then you'll be able to get a full list of events happening around the county so that you can take your motor oil. Is there a county sponsored composting program that we can participate in?
I think there are different county resources that encourage composting. I don't know because we're not the county, we're special districts created to handle wastewater and solid waste where the different cities we serve, their mayors and our board of directors. But I think that the LA County, probably Department of Public Works may have some composting resources to help with that. So.
All right, next question. Where does the yard waste, the green bin, where does that go?
So that gets shredded and then sold to a broker and it gets composted. I'm not sure where it goes right now to get composted. I think it's the Inland Empire, but I'm not 100% sure.
Next question, can the city of Irvine work with you to send their residential food waste?
I think, yeah, so we're open to taking residential food waste from, to help out. What I would say is that contact Genesis or I, and we'll put you in contact with the person running the Point of Hills MRF, the food waste program. So they'll
I'll,
work out the do's and don'ts and so on.
I'll put it in the chat right now.
Yeah.
How much megawatts is used to power the whole station, like the joint plant station area?
The joint water pollution control plant needs about 18 to 19, 20 megawatts of power. And it all that power comes from that power plant that's running on the biogas. And the reason when I gave that little talk on it, I said it was essentially energy self-sufficient because from time to time, the power plant has to be taken down for maintenance. If it never had to be taken down for maintenance, that power plant could handle all the power needs for the wastewater treatment plant.
How are the new food waste regulations affecting your operations, both on the consumer pre-sorting and your side with composting?
I know these new food waste diversion or organics diversion program. That's why we set up this food waste recycling program to help our cities comply with getting organics, in particular food waste, out of landfill. So yeah, we're just trying to do our part to help the cities we serve.
Are there private companies doing the same work as the sanitation districts?
Yes, so we're a special agency, a governmental agency, but it doesn't preclude private haulers, private companies, private landfills. I know that, yeah, so there are people in the private sector doing the same thing, but our task is to make sure we're a safety net, that there's always a relatively low cost option for residents to recycle, to handle solid waste and so on. In that intro slide where I talked about how the law was changed to ban backyard incinerator, the Board of Supervisors back in the day set us up as a safety net, a backstop to solid waste management, that there's always should be an option there, and that's what we provide. But people in the private sector can do the same thing.
Is the compost produced from the food waste sold commercially, or is it offered to the public?
So we have a number of sites. We have a number of sites. One in Inland Empire where we take the biosolids. So what comes out of that digester, we take it up to either Kings County, where we mix it with agricultural waste and we create a compost that we work with local farmers to rejuvenate the soil. And then we do the same thing at Inland Empire. And again, that compost is either sold or given to local farmers to utilize it.
All right, so we have Jay Whitetaker has another question. Let's see, Jay, could you unmute yourself?
Hey there. I just think it's important to be aware that there was the Basil Convention that 192 countries signed that said we wouldn't be sending our plastic waste to Pacific Rim poorer countries. The United States did not sign that. And we are sending our plastic to Pacific Rim countries, but they don't want it. And they can't really turn it away once it gets there. And they have nothing to do with it, so they end up landfilling it and oftentimes end up dumping it in the ocean. I know that this isn't part of your thing, but I just think it's really important to be aware, for everyone to be aware, that that's actually what's happening to our plastic waste for the most part.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's, we want to be part of the solution. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. Yeah, we want to be part of the solution. I mean, it's, that blanket statement that that's what's happening to all the plastic. I don't, I don't see why anyone would pay good money to just throw it in a landfill. But part of this new automated sorting line, well, it's up on us. It's incumbent on us to come up with a way of continuing to recycle and close the loop in a sustainable way. So we all agree on that. So
If we're not sure if something is trash or recyclable, would you prefer we err on the side of putting it in the trash or the recycle bin?
I would say that the first thing you do is contact your local city or hauler, and all of them have really robust education program, and they can tell you what should go into what. I mean, there's so many different cities and jurisdiction. Yeah, the simplest thing to do is find out who your hauler is or call your city and say, hey, do you have any guidance on what should go into which bin? Yeah, because it varies from neighborhood to neighborhood.
What's the long-term plan to get to net zero across the system?
What is the long-term plan to,
Get to net zero across the system.
that means like no waste being generated?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's an ideal goal, but it always feels, I mean, I don't know if we can get to a world where it's like net zero, but it really means that, I mean, again, this is beyond my, you know, realm as an engineer with the sanitation district, but it really gets into a philosophy. When you build something, you have to think about what happens to it when you're done with it. You got to, I guess, start with the end in mind. If you're going to put a new product on the market, the first thing you should be thinking about when that product is served its use, what happens to it? If you don't think like that, then it's going to be almost impossible to get to that net zero.
Does all the waste in LA go to your MRF? And why do different cities have different rules or different haulers have different rules?
So each city, I mean, like I live in the city of LA, so the city of LA has its own sanitation department. It collects the waste, but a lot of other cities, they franchise out, they bid out who gets to pick up the refuse, and working with that hauler, that hauler decides what the rules should be in terms of collection. So, and then they decide where to take it. If the hauler is big enough, they may have their own landfill or even food waste recycling system, or they have their own, but the sanitation districts is more convenient, cheaper, cleaner, which is all above. So, yeah.
How important is it to completely wash these containers out before putting them in the recycling bin? And most importantly, peanut butter.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think it's important to completely wash them out, but I can't answer that question in like specific detail.
So the next question, can you mention a few of those private companies that are doing similar work as the sanitation districts?
I think some of the large haulers, I mean, Athens, Waste Management, I mean, and those large haulers, they do the similar type thing.
Yeah.
And go
All
to
right.
their virtual tour. I'm not going to plug them right now. No.
All right, so the next question, how does your system handle products that are mixed materials?
You mean where you have different types of recycled material in the blue bin?
I think so. It doesn't really specify.
I mean, that's the whole thing about the automated sorting line. It has different steps along there that separate things based on density and so on. So that's that's the best I can come up with.
Does Burtech Waste Industries use the MRF for dumping their recyclables? Yes.
Good. I'm glad you remember that. I didn't.
Vertex on the lid. It was in your chart.
Okay.
So where does electronic waste go after being dropped off at one of the recycling centers?
So I know we work with a number of contractors, and then we want to make sure it's not taken overseas and improperly disposed of. So we work with a number of contractors that take it to places where they dismantle the stuff and make sure it's done in an environmentally sound and a people-friendly way. So I know one of the places I think was down in San Diego, but we can, if you can get, I don't know that off the top of my head, but if you reach out to us, we can tell you where it goes with our vendors. That's one of the things someone mentioned, the Basil Convention. I mean, that is something we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. So with the HHW, for example, we know the contractors we hire, we also go to see where what happens to like the electronic waste. So we want to make sure it's not just being put on a ship and dumped overseas.
All right, and we have a question from Jody. Jody, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hello. I asked the question earlier about mixed materials products. I meant if one item had different materials, how does your machinery handle that?
Could you give me an example? What do you mean one item?
Like if one item has paper and metal and it's one piece, like does it just break it apart or?
So when let's say it's in the blue bin.
Yeah.
So then if it has paper and metal, I think the density separator will probably put that in the metal categories, and it gets handled differently because we're looking for like that we're using the different densities to separate the thing out. So that maybe if something like that is combined, that'll probably wind up being some type of, yeah, it's either going to wind up in the metal pile or even just the waste pile. So because the system's set up to, paper or cardboard has a different density than metal, and to separate things by density, and then you do the optical sorting, and then you'll do the cleaning either by a robot or people eyeing the line and say, okay, that doesn't belong there. So that may wind up in, for all I know, in like the waste stream, the residual stream. So, and again, if you reach out to us, we could get you more detailed answers. I could, the folks that deal with it day to day, I could get you an answer to that, a more precise answer.
So where is the trash from the MRF taken to since the local landfills are closed?
So right now we have a couple of, we have contracts with Orange County landfills. So the residuals in that transfer truck that you saw from Genesis, it usually goes to one of Orange County landfill.
And we have a question from Jose Sanchez. Jose, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi, yes. Is the production of methane more efficient when you combine the wastewater with the organics from food than the landfill by itself?
So when we add the food waste slurry to our digester, we've seen like a 50% or a doubling of the methane production. I think is what a doubling of the methane production just by adding the food waste to the digesters.
You know why?
I think it's just because it's just a pure source of organic material, pure. But we can get you a precise answer. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of it's just more energy, more food, as opposed to the wastewater solids that get removed. So.
The next question, when will the trains be hauling waste out to the desert?
Okay, we didn't talk about it. So we're supposed to be the backstop for LA County, in terms of solid waste management. So we've built a large landfill that's 200 miles east of the Puente Hills landfill. It's called Mesquite Regional Landfill. And so whenever the market just needs that landfilling space or capacity, we have it. So we don't see it in the near future, and everyone's effort is into converting waste into resources. That's our mantra. That's what we want to do. So the later the better, but we have to have an out. Let's say we needed to dispose of a lot of refuse because of, you know, something unforeseen. For example, we have the Calabasas landfill, and when that fire came through a couple of years ago, the Woolsey fire, our tonnage went way up, and the regulators gave us the green light to increase the tonnage we could landfill. So we have to have it there. I would say 10 years, but maybe longer if we do a great job of recycling. But we need to have a safety net in terms of handling solid waste.
All right. So,
So I guess what
next-
we say is that we'll still hang on. I know it's been like an hour and a half. We'll answer all your questions, but really thank you everyone for showing up and partaking in this virtual tour. So, yeah.
Thank you. And I just got more questions about a recorded version. So yes, we will be posting this on our YouTube channel. I will put it in the chat. It's youtube.com/Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. And so it'll be posted up there no later than Monday morning.
Yeah.
And
So thank you. I mean, for the few that want to still stick around and ask more questions, we'll be here if you want. Or you.
all right.
Unless Jess just has someplace to go right now.
No, we're in quarantine. There's
Yeah.
nowhere else I'd rather be. All
Yeah.
right. So the next question, is it okay to put a bunch of paper in a big box and then put that in the bin, or does that get taken out because it's too big?
I don't see a problem with that. I mean, again, the density, as it gets ripped apart, the cardboard will surf across the top, the paper will be left behind, and then you have the optical sorters. I don't see that as a problem. Yeah.
All right. And then for the MRF, since the glasses can break into small pieces in the conveyor, can they still be collected for sale? Thanks.
I didn't understand the question.
Well, after, I mean, they're broken up into pieces and then they're sold.
Yeah, and then they're sold to vendors. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you determine the purity of the bales that you produce?
We have folks that inspect them and quantify them. And I think when you go to these different markets, there are inspections there. When they go to the different countries where they're sold, there's rigorous inspection of the bales there as well.
This is a great question. Do we have this information in Spanish?
We could do a tour like this in Spanish down the road.
Yeah, we definitely offer these tours in Spanish if you want to request them, but very soon we'll be having a public tour version of this in Spanish as well. And you heard it here first.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be great to have them in Spanish as well. For items that might be missed or miscategorized by the automated sorters, I know you said that humans quality control the recyclable streams. I'm wondering if people monitor the waste stream as well to recover additional materials?
So after the different streams have been separated, we have two ways of quality controlling it. We'll have people to look and say, okay, that cardboard doesn't belong with this plastic, and they pull it out. But also that robot is programmed to, again, pull out things that shouldn't be in a particular waste stream. So those are the two ways we really just polish off the bales. We have either a line with people looking at the conveyor belt, pulling out things that shouldn't be there, or we have one setup where Max, the robot, it does the same thing as a human, but 4 times faster.
And a question, a little off topic, but very interesting. Do most wastewater plants in the country turn municipal sewage into biogas like you do here?
I don't think most. One is the joint plant in Carson, it treats wastewater or wastewater solids for 5 million people. So we have, what's unique about the system, which is a little off topic, is that the Carson plant, I think I showed the initial slide with all our wastewater treatment plants, is at the downstream end where there's 6 other upstream treatment plants. And all of those treatment plants settle out their solids, put it back into the trunk sewer, and it flows all the way to Carson. So you have one central location that's handling all that biosolids. So it saves us money. Instead of doing biosolids or solids processing at 7 locations, we just do it at 1. And then the magnitude, the amount of biosolids makes it really cost effective to generate the biogas to run the power plant. So I don't think what we have in the joint plant is pretty unique, where you have 7 wastewater treatment plants that are interconnected through the sewer.
So our last question for now is, can we go visit the facility with our kids? And the answer is yes. Once this pandemic is over, we would love to have everyone come visit our MRF, our wastewater treatment plants as well. All kids are welcome, ages 10 and up. And then someone else asked if it's ADA accessible, compliant. Yes, it is. Anyone can go up to the elevator through the mezzanine and check it out. It's really a fun experience. We have actually another question from Erica. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Just quick, the follow up my 2 questions before is for the glasses. I heard because they broke into small pieces, so in the end they are very hard to collect in the end to be baled. So that's my first question.
They're not baled. The glasses aren't baled. It's like almost, they're really fine pieces, and they're sold to different brokers that way. And they, I don't know what their specific process, but the glass is recycled that way. Yeah, it's kind of standard.
Because I was being told that it's better to just take my glass to like the local recycler, and because just for the glass, they only collect for glass instead of putting into a blue bin, because it will be broken into small pieces during the process. So it will not be collected for sale in the end very easily.
Okay, and that's fine. But if the glass is in there, we process it that way. So, yeah.
Okay. For the determine the purity, does the contamination coming from the food residue on the recyclables, or it's because, for example, if you are determining the plastic number 1 for purity, is that based on the purity of plastic number 1, or like the purity from other material like plastic number 2, or other food contamination on the plastic number 1?
I'm not sure. I mean, when we say the bales are like 95% or greater pure, that means it's 95% of that commodity. If there's a lot of food in there, then you can't really say it's that, 95%. So I'm not sure your answer, but I could, if you want to drop us a line, we could get a more detailed answer for you. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, and you have our information. Send us an email and we'll get you an answer. So.
Yeah, because right, I think I always wash my recyclable very, very thoroughly before I put it in the bin.
That doesn't hurt. I'm not saying not to do it. I just see that some of the stuff that comes through is not as thoroughly washed as yours.
But sometimes I will be disappointed to see other people just put a pizza box into the recycling bin. That will contaminate the whole bin. So
yeah.
No, so I think it's still better to educate people to wash as much as they can before putting to the blue bin, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the next question we have, what is the biggest mistake we are making when we throw things away at home? Or what would you ask us to keep in mind when we throw our trash away?
I think I said it earlier. Just because a pair of shoes may be used again, it probably doesn't belong in the recycle bin. You know, those are the things that the people are pulling out because people are like, okay, that shoes or that rope. It's just, again, contact your city, contact your hauler, figure out what goes in those bins. You'll see the darndest things because people think, oh, that sneaker could be reused or whatever. So, all
Yeah,
right.
so that concludes our questions. Thank you, everyone, to all the brave souls who stuck around to the very end. We're so excited that you came to join us today.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot. And again, if you want more updates on our next presentation, then we will definitely put it up on our social media channels, right? So
Yeah.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and
Yeah.
our YouTube. We'll have that up as well.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, folks. Have
All
a
right.
great.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.